Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. Today I'm with Helmut Mueller DF7EE. It was interesting when I was operating from VP5 Echo down in Turks and Caicos, you become very aware of who is also competing in your category. So that was my first interaction with Helmut. And then when I was checking on 3830 scores, I had operated in the single operator high power category, but also the classic overlay and also unassisted. And Helmut had done really well in both those categories. In fact, he was currently, unofficially, number one in the classic category, and I think number two worldwide in the unassisted. And we'll get into all that later on. But Helmut, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Kevin, for having me. A real pleasure being on that show.
So let's begin with where you are.
Yeah, I'm located in Germany, pretty near to Frankfurt, the central part of Germany. And I live a little bit outside of town because I don't have to commute. So we have a little house with a little family, a little bit outside of Frankfurt, very nice, a little bit suburban area here. Unfortunately, no big antennas outside, just some little antennas in the garden, nothing fancy. No contest station here around, unfortunately.
But you do contesting from somewhere else, and we'll get into that later on. But before we do, tell us how you got started in ham radio. When did you first get licensed, and why did you do that?
Yeah, it's actually coincidence. I'm in 2 months' time. I got my ham radio license for pretty much 30 years now. And it was an interesting start. When I was a little kid, maybe like 11, 12 years old, remember, like this is back 80s, 78, 79. There were no much internet and stuff like that. So I had this strange neighbor. He had all kinds of VHF antennas on his house. I didn't know what it was by the time then. But he had a lot of antennas and wires around the house. And I was really curious what the guy is doing there. And as a little kid, I was just waiting in front of his house when he came along and said, "Hey, what are you doing there? What is this all about, these antennas?" and stuff like that. And he explained what he was doing, and he showed me his station. So I was invited into the house for a Coke, and I could see like shelves of radios and stuff like that. I was really impressed. He also repaired all the television sets for the neighbors and stuff like that, so make a little bit money on the side probably for all the expensive gear he had. And I was really, from the first moment, I was really hooked. It's like, wow, he had a computer. Nobody had a computer then. Like a ZX80 computer on his desk and SSTV and all that kind of stuff. And as a little kid, I was totally impressed, and I thought like, oh, I got to do this. I want this. I want to do this. But it wasn't that easy. So I was 12 years old or something. Couldn't get my ham radio license. My parents going, too complicated. Do your school first and stuff like that. Actually, the only one on my side was my grandpa back then. He bought me as a birthday present. He bought me a handheld CB radio, like with 12 channels, and I had to climb on the on the roof, on the roof of the house, and put the antenna up and trying to speak to people. So that was when I got a little bit into ham radio and into CB radio. Then I found some people who were already doing some DX, and I found some people doing sideband on probably back then it was not allowed, of course. Like they did a little bit pirate radio and DX on 11 meters. I got into that. But then, job came on, and first girlfriend, first motorcycle, so it got a little bit sidetracked. And 30 years ago, when I was about 28 years old, it came back and said oh well, there was this thing you were doing, and you were playing around. And I found a license course nearby, so I attended the course and made my license. Back then it was in two pieces. It was like the first technical exam, and then 2 months later I did a CW test to be allowed on the HF bands, and since then I really love the SSB sound in my ears. That got me hooked many years ago.
So we're going to talk about contesting today, But did you immediately get into contesting after you had your license, or was there a progression?
That was some kind of progression. Our local club, where I was part of, they were only a little bit involved in VHF contesting. So we didn't have any like hardcore contesters back then. They went 2 or 3 times a year. They went on a little like mountain nearby and did a little bit of VHF. And of course, all the newbies weren't allowed to operate. So you get the second radio or third radio, and you can listen in a little bit. It took a while to get into contesting because there was nobody driving it in the local club. So we had, I call it these kind of beer ideas, when you sit in the local club with a couple of people and say like, we want to do something exciting. What can we do? What can we do? And somebody came up like, let's do a contest. So we did a little bit. We played around a little bit with contesting, but never really for competing anything. So somebody came up and said, yeah, but it's boring from Germany. You know, what can we do? And then we came up with the idea. Nobody had any clue in international contesting at all, but we came up with the idea to put all our stuff in the car, drive down to Liechtenstein, to HB0 land, book a camping ground there, put all our gear up in the air, and just play CQ worldwide from the campground with 5 people. We had no idea about category, how to compete, what to expect. We said like, let's do multi. We just, whenever somebody wants to be on the radio, he can be on the radio. So there's no restrictions. We didn't understand like what multi-signal really is, and the multiplier station that was back then was way too complicated. We said just sit on the radio and play. And we hooked up 3 radios, and we were doing terribly bad, but it was more like a multi-signal score at the end. But we had lots of fun with an HB0 call sign, and it was the first time I really got into some kind of pileups every now and then. So you show up with the call sign, and then you have 3-4 stations calling at the same time, and that's like, oh wow, this is really, really cool. That's really fun. But result-wise, it was not getting us anywhere.
Well, I love the story, this idea, and I've heard it before, of people, particularly when they're younger, just packing up and operating portably and getting started that way. And it's interesting to me also that it's getting somewhat of a resurgence. There are more and more people that are doing expedition-style contesting, particularly at the state QSO level here state QSO party level here in the U.S. with the California QSO party and the New England QSO party. And I just think it's a great way for people to get introduced to contesting, but also to do something that doesn't require 320-foot towers and multiple stacked Yagis. It's just a fun way to get started. So how did that contesting niche expand for you? How did you end up competing, again, just recently in the CQWPX single sideband contest and winning a category? How did you get to that point?
Again, after that Liechtenstein experience, we're kind of, okay, that was interesting, but a little bit chaotic. So what else could I do? And I was like searching around the internet. And in 2004, I did my first real WPX. I was actually renting out a station in Bonaire. So I flew to Curacao first, spent 10 days holiday in Curacao, and then did probably everything wrong what you can do wrong from a preparation standpoint. So on the day of the contest, on the Friday, as you know, it's like it starts Friday evening, I flew from Curacao to Bonaire, rented a car, trying to find the station. We were driving around 2 hours to find the station, which is still alive. It's Papa Juliet 4 Golf, Noah Joffrey station up there. And again, no preparation, no clue. I just rented the place. I showed up with a little backup radio just in case something doesn't work. Arrived at the station maybe midday. Had to put some wire antennas up for the low bands, put the station together, put the logbook together. And by the time, like at 7 o'clock in the Caribbean, when the contest actually does start, I was already tired. I was like, oh, okay, now it's contest. Oh, great. So, but the adrenaline kicked in immediately. So you start with a Papa Juliet 4 Papa call sign, and all of a sudden it goes boom. Frequency is full. You got spotted on the cluster, and the rates begin. It was amazing. It was really, really amazing. I did close to 4,000 QSOs in that very first contest, and I finished I think third worldwide in the assisted category, for the like very, very first try. And I was really hooked at that point. It was so amazing. After the contest in the evening, we left the house and go for dinner. I could still hear call signs from people talking on the tables next to me. I could still keep on logging call signs. I was really, really hooked from that moment. And I thought like, oh wow, I got to do something like this again. And then I saw like, okay, results. It took ages back then. 6 months, 7 months till the results came out. I already was surfing around the internet, and I was looking around what I could do next, possibly. And I got hooked up with the PJ2T guys from Curacao, next door, basically. And I was in contact with Jeff and from PJ2T, and asked him, hey, if he had a space left for a guest operator at PJ2T. And he kind of knew what I was doing a couple of months before, and he was like, oh yeah, Helmut, why not? Come over. The PJ2T guys, the Caribbean Contest Consortium, they're more CW guys. They don't have a ton of sideband operators. So I was lucky to get invited and say, yeah, come over. And then we got into talks, like how to arrive, where to stay and stuff like that. And Jeff came up and said, hey, in case you know more people who want to operate from the place, we don't have enough SSB operator. So find some people and let us join. And I was asking around, found a few more people, and it very soon got the working title. It's a German invasion on Curacao, because there were all these German operators flying in. Some had some real context experience. I had context experience now too, exactly one big contest. And we were planning, see what can we do. I put the numbers on the wall, what I think, what we could do, and I oriented myself on the, we were multi-2, which was a pretty new category back then, and I oriented myself on the world record from ST0 Radio Yankee as like a bullet points, like, okay, this is what you can expect from the Caribbean. And to put a long story short, we actually broke the world record and finished one in the multi-2 category. It was an amazing experience, and it was my first flag I had on the wall. And you can imagine, like, oh wow, here's a flag, I want more.
That's a great story, Helmut. I mean, no wonder you're hooked. I mean, your very first effort out of the gate, without planning, you're number 3, and then you turn around and do a number 1. That's fantastic. So how did it progress from there? After
that, I got the world record was, of course, pretty closely broken in the years to come. Immediately, it was multi-2 was progressing. I was bouncing around a little bit. I don't have a big station. Like, I'm not a multi-millionaire or something. I have like a normal 9-to-5 job, and I have 6 weeks holiday. So I was like trying to find out what can you do next. I was invited to Madeira, to Charlie Tango 9 Lima the next year, 2006. They did a multi operation there, and I was invited. I was like, oh wow, that's great. So now people notice you and you get invited. I went there, we played multi. Unfortunately, at that time, the experience was there were 2 multi stations on the same island. There were the German guys with lots of improvised setup with like wire antennas and stuff like that, and there was this local station from the people that lived there. They had their towers in place, and they know their game, and we actually finished second world and the second one in Madeira as well. So that was kind of okay, bummer. So we could have done multi-2 again or something, but yeah, you learn from these experiences. I met a bunch of great people there, that was good to get hooked up to real contest people. And I met Carl Cook there, the Papa 49 Victor guy, and got friends with him. And I was able to use his station in the Caribbean 3 or 4 times, also on WPX in the preceding years. So it's always good to know people.
So I believe you're operating from Madeira during the CQWPX sideband contest. So was that the beginning of more return trips to Madeira?
Yes. The next trip, actually, I have the flights already booked for CQ Worldwide this year. So it will be kind of anniversary trip to Madeira. It's the trip number 25 to Madeira. So I mixed it up. I did a little bit of team contesting there. We did like multi-single, played around multi-single a little bit. I did tribander-and-wires there. I always look like, what's the station set up there? What can you do? I did a couple of single operator assisted there. And then I got also into CQ worldwides, but it was really tough with the 48 hours. I couldn't run 48 hours, so it was like, okay, what can you do? It's like 36 hours is already exhausting enough for me. So for the CQ worldwides, I found out that the single band categories would be something to go for. And I did a couple of single bands from there, and it worked out quite well. Following the sunspots, on high sunspots, you go 10 meters. The year before you were 50 meters and maybe 20 meters. And it's a good spot. It's not a super station. It's a great place. You're always kind of a multiplier, but it's not like a K3 our super station with stacked Yagis. We have a spider beam there on a 12-meter tower and another 3-band antenna. So it's not huge, but you have the advantage being a multiplier. And that helps a lot. So the single band on worldwides was quite good and was fun to compete. I tried that on WPX, but because the scoring is different and you're not as exciting as a multiplier as it is in CQ worldwide, the single bands in WPX didn't work quite as well. So that's why I came up with the idea again to move to all bands. But then into the classic category for some reason.
So before we get into that, tell me more about the CQ3W station. Whose station is that, and how has that been developed over time?
Yeah, it is there since, I think, 25 years it's in place. It was first found by Walter. He's already, unfortunately, silent key, Delta and Juliet 6 Quebec Tango. He discovered the place. He was in Madeira very, very often. And he developed the station and brought a lot of people down there and operated many times from this place. Calls were Charlie Tango 9 Lima in the beginning and other call signs they used. And over the years, when he felt like he's getting older and they had some health issues, he decided to sell the station. Or, well, it's not the ground. They don't know the ground. It's like a bed and breakfast sort of thing, but we can leave our antennas, our equipment there, the towers are there. And there was a group of 6 people who bought off all the equipment, the antennas, the towers, the radios, the amplifiers, all the equipment down there. And they're running it basically. And if you're a member of the club or if you're friends with the club, if you operate it from there, you can put your head in the ring, say, hey, how is it? Anybody there for CQ Worldwide? Can I have it? And then you can go down there and operate. But it's not like a typically rent station, so you cannot from everywhere just send an email and rent it. It needs to be somehow in the club.
So now let's talk about the CQWPX sideband contest, where I first met you via the experience. Why did you decide to operate under the unassisted category and the classic overlay category? Why did that intrigue you?
Yeah, well, I did a couple of years ago. I was in the all band category. I was planning normal, like single up all band. It was like 3 or 4 years ago, and it happened that we had a big power outage in Madeira. So in the middle of the night, I started like 0 Zulu running on 40 meters. Pretty good rates. Everything was pretty nice, and I was like, oh wow, that's getting exciting. All of a sudden, boom, lights go off, everything goes off, station goes off. I have that every now and then in the house, so I thought like, okay, this might be the fuse again. So we're like taking the torch, running up to the house and noticing, oh wow, everything around me is dark. So the whole island was blackout for a couple of hours. So I lost the whole night. I was like trying to figure out if I can do something. I was no radios, no cell phone. Everything was really down, and took like hours till like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning till the power came back on. And I was like, yeah, great. So I lost already like 6 or 7 hours. operating. So I didn't use any DX cluster because it wasn't of any help anyway. There you just hook up a frequency and you start calling CQ on these places, especially in CQ in WPX. It's too slow to go search and pound. So I was operating unassisted. I thought like, okay, it was the time already lost. Let's do classic. And I think I did 8 million or something, or 8 or 9 million. And I won the classic category. I said, okay, that's nice. That's nice, a coincidence. So the years afterwards, I did single band. And then this time I thought like, oh, single band is not really good. And I remember the classic category. I thought like, okay, let's put a real effort into the classic category. Figure out what you really need to do to win it safely. What are the numbers? What is the score? And also on the side, to be honest, I didn't want to compete against Brazzo and Delta 4, Delta X-Ray, and all the stations down there. With that station, I didn't practice any SO2 run or something. To BISQ or something. I have a IC7300 with me, so I saw like, oh well, it's not my game, never did it before, never practiced that, so that's why I went to classic. So again, same principle as many years ago on PJ2T. I put up the website and figured out, okay, what's the world record? How much you need to do to win it safely? And it was, I think it was from Aruba, Papa 49 Yankee, if I remember correctly. Had around 4,000 QSOs and 15.5 million points. And that was my goal. So I tried to figure out, okay, how can I reach 4,000 QSOs? And my experience from all the years in Madeira were that the low bands are not really our bright side. So trying to work into Europe where the noise level is S9 plus, even if you're on a normal day out of the contest, you're on 40 meters into Europe and everybody, oh, great signal, oh, you're doing great, Helmut, everything is cool. And then in the contest, you just don't find a spot. So I couldn't get any rates going on 40 meters. So my mathematics behind it was, I need to run 200 QSOs per hour to get to the 4,000 I wanted. And if I can get the low bands to work, everything above 100 would be like point-wise, it would be equal. If I can run above 100, I would stay on 40. If I can't, I quit, I make a break, and I reset and try again later. And that's exactly what happened. So the first hour was pretty good. Second hour was already like declining. And then I got bounced off my frequency a couple of times. And then like the best time of the contest, you say, okay, break time. So got off the radio, had to wait an hour till I have another try, find a new frequency, try it again.
So I'm realizing that as we talk about classic, we really haven't defined that for people who may not know it. The classic category is only 24 hours. So I'm curious, Helmut, which were the 24 hours that you took off?
Well, I tried like from all the stats I had from Madeira. So in the first couple of hours of the contest, I had already break times in, which would be, if you do normal 36-hour single operator attempt, that would be really, really unusual to start off with having a break. I mean, you have slept before, normally you have adrenaline, you're fit, you're ready to go, and then you take a break, which didn't help you on the sleep side as well at all. So I just took the break because I couldn't get any rates going. So I had like 3 or 4 breaks of each like 1 hour in the first night because I couldn't get anything really going on 40 meters. And then when the high bands came in, like with 20 meters, then after a while I stepped down to 15 and 10. I tried to get as many time into the first day, because that's another thing I learned from contesting. First day is always better than second day, exception if you have some sun activity that makes it different. But most of the time, the second day, the rates are just lower. So I put as many time as I could into the first day. And then in the evening, I can't remember exactly the time, when I felt tired and not concentrating enough, and I felt the fatigue a little bit, and so like, okay, it's maybe a good time to break. I didn't want to bother with the low bands again, so I was like, get a sleep, forget the low bands, got a couple of hours sleep, and then I started again in the morning with the same routine. I was trying to get 40 going into Europe. Didn't work out. I stayed on the high bands, And after the clock was over, like I was close to my goal. I didn't quite get to the 4,000. So when the clock was over, I could have operated a couple of hours more. It was like the second day, like 1,400, 1,500, something like that, Zulu. I was like, okay, I can do 2 or 3 more hours. But I was a little bit fatigued already, and like concentration was down a little bit. I did well on the 24 hours. I think that was a good score, even if I not quite reached the 4,000. But I thought, like, okay, does it make any difference for me now to be 7s or 8s in the all over category, or doesn't really make a big difference for me? So I decided to flip the big switch and find something to eat.
I'm looking at 3830 scores, and I'm showing that you did hit 4,000 QSOs. Was that adjusted after 3830?
Yeah, it was adjusted after. I operated like 30 minutes too long or something like that. I got my break times on the piece of paper wrong a little bit, and I was like, in the beginning I was like, yeah, 4,000, yeah, great. And then I figured out, after I looked at the stats, I saw like, oh, okay. After the claim scores came in, it was a little bit under. It's like 3,900 something. Unfortunately, it is a little bit above the world record on the Classic, but it will not hold up to log check. I saw the log check report already, and I was sure it will not gonna hold up, but it would be in the top 3, I guess, all time.
Well, I'm guessing there's no chance at all that I'm going to catch up with you, because on 3830 I was in 3rd place. I don't know what that actually looks like against the logs, but I was 4 million off your total, even though I was just behind you on the board. I don't know where I ended up with Classic, but it was a great contest, a lot of fun.
Yeah, if you you have a second bid in if you do Classic, and if you don't do it like I did, like concentrating really on the rates. If you do your normal, like if you operate 36 hours, and if you're in the Caribbean, like Victor Papa 5, where you've been, or any fancy place, you don't need a cluster. It will be way too slow to click on any spots and calling them 5 times to get 1 QSO. It would be too slow anyway. So you can easily be unassisted in that, in these places, and then you have the 24-hour bid in on the side anyway. So you have a bid in both categories basically, and we all know. I mean, I was sure I couldn't compete to the top 3 on the single operator category with a station. With my skills, I couldn't compete, so I thought, like, okay, it's a good way. It's my sniper way. Find the right category and not being second multi again in the same country.
Helmut, just switching gears a little bit, I'm curious. There's an ongoing conversation here in the States about ham radio and what the future looks like for ham radio. What's that look like in Germany? Are you seeing more people getting licensed? Are there younger people getting involved? Are people in mid-career getting on the air? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I think unfortunately we don't have as many young people as we would love to have coming on board. There are certain projects we're doing with like young contesters. There's the ham radio coming up in a couple of weeks from now, which is a big like ham fest, much smaller than Senia, of course, but probably the biggest one in Europe, where there's lots of activities for younger people, trying to get those on board and getting those involved. And also the ones they have a license, we want to get them involved into contesting as well. There's lots of activities, but it's I wouldn't say it's their success, of course, but we definitely need more young people to join contesting and to join ham radio. I don't have a good solution to that. I was trying to involve as many people. Even my kids, they look at me and it's like, okay, interesting. They spend half an hour with me, but nobody is so much interested that my older son is 10 years old. I was like, hey, you're off school now for 6 weeks. You can do your like beginner's license or something. He was like, no. Like playing on the cell phone and playing on the PlayStation 5 is probably more exciting to the kids those days. Unfortunately, even now I can't hook up my kids so far, but maybe someday I try.
So tell me about contesting. What would you like to see in the future when it comes to contesting?
I think there could be a little bit corrections in the categories. I've seen some emails floating around. I think Ranko made some suggestions of changing categories and changing point structures. I find that usually very difficult to do because you have such, like CQ Worldwide, for example, it's on for so many years, and you have the heritage of all those scores and all those achievements. And if you now totally change it up and change the point structure, that doesn't match anymore to the history. So I would be really, really careful with those. But introducing like new categories or new ways of contesting, like Explorer category, something like that, is a good way. I've seen projects like from K3LR and others, and PJ2T does it as well, getting the young people on contests and inviting them to events, things like that. This is really, really great. Youth category, things like that. Beginners category is already there. Unfortunately, can't compete in there anymore, but I think that's good ways to get people hooked. And if they want to get started into contesting, and you finish with 2 million points, and then you see a score of 30 million from Cape Verde, you could be easily frustrated. But if you have like your own like youth or beginners or rookie category, and you put that in relation to other people, that would make much more sense, I think, and help people to get involved.
You're absolutely right about Tim Duffy at K3LR and Jeff Howard down at PJ2T. They've done a great job. And I would add Bill Schmidt at J62K in St. Lucia. He's also every year inviting young people down to operate in multi-efforts at his contest station. So I really appreciate that. Helmut, I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm glad you took time today out of your schedule to make this call. I'm not sure what time it is there, but I know it's not in midday like it is here. So thank you for, again, interrupting your schedule. And I look forward to seeing you in the next contest. Yeah,
it's a pleasure being with you, Kevin, and talk with you. And I feel myself now really honored being on your show with all those superhumans you usually have on there. And it was a pleasure talking to you, and hope to catch up with you, CQ Worldwide SSB.
My name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. I've been talking to Helmut Mueller DF7EE. I'm sure you'll hear him on the air and in the contest 73.